Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. Happy Friday. Dave had to be out again today to deal with the previous commitment. He might be able to be back during the middle of the show, but there was something he had to tend to. So we'll just kind of play that by ear and see how it goes. But we hope you guys are enjoying a great first day of summer. For those of you who celebrated, I hope you guys had a great Juneteenth yesterday. And we will try to run through our topics today so we can all get out of here and enjoy the weekend. I don't know who stayed up late last night watching the NBA Finals, but man, that was I thought it was going to end in 7 games. I thought it was going to end in 6, and now we got a game 7. Nothing like a game 7 in sports. We got a lot to get to today regarding college football. We're going to talk a little bit about Nico Iamaleava and Joey Aguilar, and I'm going to credit the Sports Source for this, to their credit, but they compared Nico Iamaleava and Joey Aguilar on specific stats, and I want to ask the question as to whether or not those stats actually mean anything. So we're going to see how that goes. We also are going to ask the question of whether or not Tennessee should recruit Charles Woodson Jr. There are some debates about that. I know how some people feel, and I will give my thoughts on it. This day in Tennessee sports history, stat of the day: is Tennessee more likely to beat Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, or lose a game somewhere else? We're going to break that down. So Dave just told me his computer got unplugged. He is trying to hop in now. He said, hold tight. So he is working on getting that going. We have this day in Tennessee history, stat of the day. What will be the Vols' best unit on offense in 2025? Is Tennessee more likely to beat Florida, Georgia, or Alabama, or lose a game somewhere else? That'll be bank on it. And Peyton Manning has come out and said that having a head coach call offensive plays is a big benefit. We'll see what he means by that. So we got a lot of things going on. We're trying to get Dave in now. He says he is back. His computer got unplugged, so he's trying to log in now. There is gotta love technical difficulties on a Friday, right? So we're gonna see how this plays out. Let's see how it rolls. But yes, we're trying to get these technical difficulties solved. We may or may not have him on. Timothy McGee, we'll get to this. We'll get to the message boards first. And Timothy McGee says Nico is out of Tennessee. Joey Aguilar has 4 years of real games, no contest. Okay, and Derek, Timothy, that is a fair point. He does have 4 years of real games. The question is, what about the level of play he's at? Also, Sports Source, according to Derek, did a segment with Pro Football Focus stats on Joey and Nico. Interesting to see where Joey was most effective. It was 1 to 10 yards, middle of the field, and both sides of the field, plus 20 yards deep. I agree. I actually thought that too. We're going to talk about that. The question is, the real big question is, was Joey Aguilar's greater success than Nico in certain situations because of his lack of was the real success due to the lack of competition he faced? Now, yes, it was real games at the college football level, but yes, it was due to his lack of shall we say, competition that he had faced. Also, Tennessee, Britt Bender of String says they go 8-4, lose to Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Oklahoma. Okay. I'm having a debate over whether or not they either beat Georgia, Alabama, or Florida, or lose one of the other games. Tony Walsh says Dave should probably stay away from electoral plugs. Yep. We're trying to get him on. We're trying to get him on now. We're seeing how it's going to play out. I'm going to go ahead and ask this question real quick. I've closed that poll question. Is it relevant that Joey Aguilar is better under pressure on deep balls than Nico Iamaleava? We're going to have to see how that goes. But here's the real question. Would you accept the son of Charles Woodson playing for Tennessee? And that is going to be yes and no. And I want to know y'all's thoughts on that. That is a hot point of contention, and we're going to talk about that when Dave gets on. But I'm going to stick with having a little bit of fun with the message board first. Let's see. Adam comes in and says, I guess if we talk about it for long enough, someone will put some real research into the QB swap. Yep, and that is true with Nico and Joey Aguilar. Nico Iamaleava and Joey Aguilar is the situation is very interesting how it plays out and how it all goes. Another thing that's very interesting, though, is how is this relevant with coaches calling offensive plays? Now, Unsung says Aguilar is the type of quarterback that'll either be exciting or could be exciting for the other team It's going to be interesting. I totally agree. It's going to be very interesting. So let's get rolling. We'll continue this when Dave hops on. First, Timothy McGee with the super chat says, Pavia, JUCO played New Mexico U and Vandy, some type of success. Hypo JUCO. That's very true. You're right, Timothy. And a lot of the success quarterbacks have at a lower level. You can judge that at the higher level. You can also judge their failures at the lower level because, again, it's about the level of talent they're playing with at either level. And we know that Joey Aguilar did struggle last year, completing fewer than 50% of his passes. General Ursa says, you just finished watching the highlights of the 1938 Tennessee Clemson game. Tennessee had a pick six and a 20-7 victory. Interesting. Sam Schrock says, to say we go 8-4 means we are a worse team than last year, which is not true. Better O-line, better receivers, same D-line, talent, older linebackers, older secondary. I agree. And by the way, we're going to talk later in the show about what is the best Tennessee football offensive unit. So let's get rolling with today's tough question, and it revolves around Tennessee recruiting. We finally got Dave on. Let's see if I can change his name real quick, and then we'll bring him in. 1 second. There we go.
You have to love technical issues. They never go away. I don't care if it's Grok or if it's AI or whatever it might be. So we are up and rolling today. Do you want to go ahead and do that? Let's do the intro just for funsies as we get up and going, and then while I get caught up with what you've been doing. Welcome to the program, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We get it started right now. It is Off the Hook Sports.
And here we go.
Sports! You think?
No, you had it right playing.
Say something intelligent.
You had it playing right. We love technical difficulties. We absolutely do. Yes, we are talking a lot about Nico and the recruiting of Charles Woodson. It is going to be interesting with players recruiting Charles if Charles Woodson Jr. ends up at Tennessee. That would be one of the most interesting things, one of the most interesting twists in all of college football if that happened. So we'll kind of see how it goes. I love this General Ursinator. General Ursus, the Hookinator is in the house, which we love.
And for some reason, I can't hear you. Keep talking.
That's because your cord is not connected. All right. Dave is trying to figure out why he can't hear me. We are going to get this going. Derek says that the pistol package was coming in before Nico left. Does that still become a mainstay wrinkle? I would think so, because even though Joey Aguilar is reportedly, even if he is less mobile, which we don't know if that's true, but even if he is less mobile, Joey Aguilar, the pistol doesn't necessarily require a certain level of mobility. It actually is better for more pure drop back passers. I mean, Peyton Manning ran the pistol when he was at Denver, so that's kind of we'll kind of see how that goes. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Got you back. And just to prove it, Cooper Mays wants to weigh in on the dysfunction that is the first segment of this program.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, Coop. We appreciate that. All right. So digging into the rundown, you were in what topic right now? Where are you right now?
I was just about to launch on could the Vols get Charles Woodson Jr.? Today's tough question.
I'm sure they could. I mean, they're a program that I believe produces, especially defensive players for the NFL, more offensive players than we give them credit for. So that's one of the things I think that prospects are going to look at closer and closer. As far as I know what you're digging at, the Manning and the Woodson hubbub about the Heisman Trophy, I just don't think either of those guys care anymore. I'm sure Peyton, being in a football family, deep down, he'd like to have won the Heisman. I don't know that Charles Woodson looks at Tennessee any differently because Peyton Manning went there or not. Do you?
No, I don't think so. The question is, would Tennessee fans look at Charles Woodson any differently? Because we know Tennessee fans are not the biggest fans of Charles Woodson of what happened. Now, I've always said that's unfair to Charles Woodson. What's he supposed to do? Not accept the Heisman? But I know you've talked about people. You told me at ESPN that it was a lot of it had to do with the way Charles Woodson acted while he was accepting the Heisman the week that was going on, and a lot of people didn't like that. But I would add, would Tennessee fans be embracing of Charles Woodson Jr., or would there still be just too much bad blood that his dad beat Peyton Manning for the Heisman?
Well, according to our poll question, no. What does the poll question say?
Yes, and the poll question says, would you accept the son of Charles Woodson playing for Tennessee? And as of right now, 94% say yes and 6% say no. And for those who don't know, Charles Woodson is a 3-star across the board in the 2027 recruiting class. He is a 4-star on a couple of services, and he could grow coming out of Florida, listed as a safety or a nickel. I guess the real question is, Dave.
And we're talking about the son. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, Charles Woodson Jr. The real question is this. Is part of why Tennessee had offered him, and it's part of why they may want to land him, just to kind of stick it to the whole situation?
No, I don't think that's it, but I do have a bigger concern. It seems like Tennessee is taking and Robert Peace's son can play. Okay, there's no question about that. But it does seem there seems to be an odd parallel of guys getting offers that have big names from the University of Tennessee. And that reminds me of Butch Jones, and that's scary.
Yes, and that's actually something I was thinking about too, because JP Peace, KJ McLean now, not KJ McLean, excuse me, the guy who committed earlier in this week, I think it's Luke Thompson was his name. And now you're right. Yes, the son of Charles Woodson. But I don't know if it's Butch Jones-esque because, I mean, we know this, whether or not he missed back in 2022. My understanding is Tennessee wanted Nico over Arch Manning. Josh Heupel wanted Nico over Arch Manning more than anybody else. And now that didn't work out. We understand that.
That sounds like recruiting talk in retrospect. I'm going to be honest. You may well be right, but in retrospect, it sounds like recruiting talk. Watching those two guys play, there seems to be a clear delineation in who's the better player.
Yes, to this point, but we didn't know that coming out. I mean, remember the highlight reel? I'm the one who said Nico was created in a lab to run Tennessee's offense.
You are her.
So,
You remind yourself of that.
Yeah, I remind people when I'm right all the time. I feel like I have to remind them when I'm wrong too. That's the nature of this business. I don't run from that. But yes, I do believe that Charles Woodson, I think it could be partially to stick it to Tennessee. Also to stick it to Michigan. Look, Michigan's going for Charles Woodson, and we know that. But I get your point, the Butch Jones-esque issue. My understanding is Tennessee has, quote, all eyes on Charles Woodson. That's what was reported earlier in the week. And the question, and Charles Woodson posted a picture of himself in a Tennessee jersey on Sunday after he visited with Tennessee. The question is, given the story and the nature of the 97 Heisman, would the landing of Charles Woodson be an earthquake for college football?
You know what's funny is you're younger than me, and I can remember covering guys that I covered in recruiting, and then suddenly they were 15, 16-year-olds that I was covering their sons in recruiting. I think there's a lot of time that passes. I don't want to be the wet blanket here, but I don't think it would have that much of effect, Caleb. I really don't. And I think that if I had to guess, I'm going to guess that Peyton Manning has a lot of respect for the way Charles Woodson plays and the way he prepares. He probably isn't crazy about some of the things that Charles Woodson did at the Walter Camp Award, where he demanded 4 first-class seats, and probably some of the shenanigans and the Heisman post. He's probably not crazy about that. But as a player, don't you think that Charles Woodson is the type of guy that Peyton Manning respects?
Oh, I think so. I mean, he was an athletic cornerback, but he was a very smart cornerback. And Peyton loved, for those who don't know, you know this about Peyton, he loved the chess matches with cornerbacks and safeties in the NFL, didn't he? That was one of his favorite things. I think that's why he loved Ray Lewis, because Ray Lewis, for all of his boisterousness and talking, Ray Lewis was very much a kind of chess playing kind of linebacker, wasn't he?
He was a killer.
Yeah, he was. Exactly. So Peyton Lewis, I think, not Peyton Lewis, Ray Lewis, excuse me, was a very smart linebacker and was locked in chess matches with guys like Peyton a lot. So that's why you saw Peyton had such respect for Ray Lewis.
And I'll take this a step further. I think there were probably times where Jalen Hurd's family said, don't listen to that dodo bird Butch Jones. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And when you have that erosion of coaches at home, it can really, really hurt you. I think it's the exact opposite in the Woodson family. I think they're like, that guy gets it done. If he says you need to be digging deep on a curl route because he's noticed a tendency you have on defense, then you need to do that. I mean, wouldn't you agree? I think there's going to be a lot of mutual respect. Listen, I don't care if you do the pose, if you didn't deserve it, and I don't think Charles Woodson deserved the Heisman, but no matter what you do, you still won the Heisman. You don't fluke into a Heisman.
No, he won the Heisman. He was a first-round draft pick. He was a national champion that year. I mean, Hall of Famer. So there's a lot there with Charles Woodson to respect. Let's come back real quick. Let's just play today's tough question by Banks and Jones.
I just wish, and you know, if we were in a situation where we are now, there'd be a good chance that Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning would face off on the field. How awesome would that be in a playoff?
You mean Charles Woodson Jr. and Arch Manning?
No.
Oh, you mean like if Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning played in today's game?
Right. If there were playoffs in 1998, that would be fantastic. And really, you bring up a lot of great points about the regular season and how it's hurt, but matchups like that would be pretty darn special, because sometimes in college football, I feel like we don't know who the stars are until what, 4th, 5th week in the season. I mean, did we really know who Mike Vick was entering the season? No, but by 3rd or 4th game, we're like, whoa, you know, that guy can play. I'm going out of my way to watch him on TV. So I think you would see more of that, and you would see more of that in the playoffs. Today's tough question: would the Vols accept Charles Woodson as one of their own? I say heck yes, as long as the guy can play. That's my one caveat. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Let me ask you this. What's easier in this Uncle Buck sort of scenario, Bunkle Luck? If Peyton went and he was in charge of the Woodson household, or Charles Woodson came over and he was in charge of the Peyton household, which would go smoother?
Charles Woodson.
I mean, this has reality show all over it. Get us on Shark Tank, for the love of God. Somebody.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wait. What was that show back in the day? Wife Swap, Trading Spouses or whatever? Wife Swap?
Oh.
Like, oh my gosh. Because I believe Charles Woodson's married too. Like, could you imagine like Ashley Manning has to go into, this is what we need. Ashley Manning moves to Charles Woodson's house for a month, and Charles Woodson's wife, whoever she is, I'm sure she's a lovely lady, moves into Peyton Manning's household for a month, and they have to run the other side's household. How epic would that be, Dave?
That would be wrong in so many ways that I can't even put it into words.
I mean, but they did a show on that where you would swap. They would do a show, Wife Swap, where not like sexually. I'm saying like you had to the wife had to adjust to the household of
Okay, well, let me just go ahead and get this out there. I never understood because I never watched the show. Did they really swap, or was it just like you do the laundry, I'll do the dishes?
Yeah, it was. Well, no, it was swapped in the sense of the wife would move in. The wife of one family and the wife of another family would move into each other's homes for a month and live in the home. And then they would have to adjust to that family's lifestyle. And they would usually pick complete opposite families. I doubt anything went on in the bedroom, although, I mean, maybe it did. I don't know. But that would be epic. Do wife swap, bring back wife swap and have it with Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson's wives. Okay. So yeah, that would be hilarious. Okay. I want April Woodson is her name. Okay. April Woodson is her name. Ashley Manning and April Woodson need to go on wife swap. I'm calling for it now. I want this show to come back. Ashley Manning and April Woodson need to go on wife swap. That would be the most legendary show of shows.
Okay. I'm not for this. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better. Is Tennessee more likely to beat Florida, Georgia, or Alabama? You said or, not and, right?
Yeah. Are they more likely to beat one of those three teams?
Okay. Or lose a game somewhere else? Now, Caleb thought of this at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, and I was a little surprised, frankly, because Caleb has been on the drum that Syracuse could beat Tennessee. I think you even hinted Mississippi State could beat Tennessee. So I'm a little surprised. Now, let's break this down. Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Bank on It. I'm going to half agree with you. I think that Tennessee is going to thump Florida. I'm not even concerned about Florida. Tennessee has a puncher's chance against Alabama, and Tennessee has probably little chance against Georgia until they show me something different. So I hate to split up the question. It's a rude way of addressing your proposal here, but I think that Tennessee is very likely to beat Florida. So I don't think they'll lose a game elsewhere there. Georgia, they'll probably lose another game. As a matter of fact, right now I've got Georgia beating Tennessee and one other team to be named later. Alabama, I don't know. I'm kind of with you on Kalen DeBoer in that he adjusted to a quarterback that wasn't his style of quarterback and had a really good year. I just wonder Alabama long term when their athletic director is begging for money, which Greg Byrne was doing. So I could see Alabama leveling off, Tennessee being on that same level, and that going tit for tat, a home and home, type of game. And Georgia, I don't see them climbing the ladder. Florida, I think they've climbed the ladder, even though what happened in 22 with Cooper Manning. So Cooper Mace. So I don't see them losing a game elsewhere when I look at their schedule. You want to take a look at them?
Okay, so you are on the team. They're more likely to win one of those games because you think they're going to beat Florida.
Yes, definitely. If I thought at first we were picking all three, and I was like, whoa. Okay, but if we're just picking one,
yeah, they win one of those games or they lose a game somewhere else. What's more likely?
I think they win one of those.
Okay. I'm going to have to say to me, it's more likely they lose a game somewhere else. And I'm going to tell you why. Tennessee plays Florida on the road. They play Alabama on the road. I've told you guys, I know your questions about Kalen DeBoer, but I still think Alabama this year, from a talent composite perspective, is way above Tennessee. I think Kalen DeBoer is, you hate to say this, but is actually more proven as a head coach than Josh Heupel to this point. He got Washington to the national title game, for God's sake.
Amen.
On top of that, I think that Tennessee hasn't beaten Alabama or Florida on the road in over 20 years. Georgia at home is a different story. Georgia is better talent-wise, but Tennessee does get them in September. I actually think that might be their best chance of an upset of the three, but it's Georgia, so I can't really pick them to beat Georgia. Meanwhile, from the other 9 games, Dave, let's just be honest. Tennessee's been guilty of dropping a game they shouldn't beyond one of those 3 teams every year under Heupel. There's the Columbia collapse of 2022. There was the stand-on business Missouri game of 2023, and there was the Arkansas game last year. And so it's hard for me to look at that and say that they wouldn't drop another game that they shouldn't drop this year somewhere down the line. And given the fact that Heupel still has never beaten Georgia and has never beaten Alabama or Florida on the road, I got to say it's more likely to me that Tennessee loses one of the other 9 games.
Well, again, it sounds like you're straddling the fence a little bit. Are you saying they'll win all 3 games?
No, I'm saying it's more likely they lose somewhere else than it is that they win any of those games. I'm saying they are more likely to lose all 3 of those games and be upset by another team than they are to win any of those 3 games.
Okay. I don't see that. I think their coaching level at a similar peer as Alabama. I think they've shown that in a couple of years against Saban and against DeBoer. I think that the talent gap is closing just a little bit against Georgia. I'm not here to tell you that they're getting ready to take on Georgia and take down the Bulldogs. I'm not going to tell you that. But then Florida, I like the talent gap.
But do you like them on the road?
Well, I like the talent gap significantly, but what I really like is the coaching gap. And coaching, I think, overcomes road woes. I don't think talent can overcome road woes, but I think coaching can overcome road woes.
Hasn't proven that with Heupel, though. he's struggled on the road throughout his career at Tennessee.
Well, then maybe he's not a good coach. I mean, that's something that you have to kind of look into if you want to. I mean, it to me, I think we're still judging whether or not Josh Heupel.
But that's why I'm saying I think Tennessee. That's why I'm saying I think Tennessee's likelier to lose all 3 of those games than they are to beat all 9 of the other teams.
Let's throw out some reasons for downs. Brought to you by.
Well,
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, let's take on bank on it real quick.
Yep.
Let me give you a couple other reasons real quick. Just let me quick message from Commercial Bank, but I want to give you another reason right when we come back from that.
Oh, all right.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, so here's the other big reason that Tennessee's more likely to lose one of those games of beyond the 9. Because they are on upset alert in 2 of them already, Syracuse and Kentucky. I've told you why they're on upset alert against Syracuse. They're also on upset alert at Kentucky because that's a night game and it's going to be in cold weather. They're on upset alert against both. And
they're not on upset alert against Syracuse.
They are on upset alert against Syracuse.
Sorry, you come out with at least a name, and Syracuse does have a name. It may not be the biggest name, may not be Nebraska, may not be Oklahoma, may not be Texas, but it is a name. It gets your attention. I think that happened in the 98 team. I think it got their attention. Now, they overlooked them some still, but I think that Tennessee plays well against Syracuse. Let's remember some of these guys beat Pitt. And Pitt they probably thought was going to be a pretty easy matchup, and that was a tough one. So hopefully those guys are instilling the virtues of playing a non-conference opponent and the fact that they can beat you.
I mean, I would hope that you're right. But again, we're talking about a team in Tennessee. Now, Syracuse is breaking in a lot of new talent too, but Tennessee is breaking in a new quarterback. And we're also talking about a program that, I mean, let's just be straight up honest. They are breaking in a new quarterback. There are a lot of chemistry issues that they have to resolve, a brand new offensive line, and Syracuse has a lot of talent. Is very well coached. Syracuse has a very good coach in Fran Brown. Now, again, down the line, Kentucky on the road, that's a tough one too. Look, I'm just going to say this right now. You have me bet is Tennessee. Let's just simplify this. Is Tennessee more likely to beat Florida or lose to Kentucky? I think they're more likely to lose to Kentucky. Honestly, both are road games, likely at night.
Totally disagree. You must think more about detail-oriented Billy Napier than me. Yes, go ahead.
Josh Heupel has lost the only time he faced Billy Napier on the road.
Yeah, but that was also the Cooper game.
I know that, but it's still like you can't ignore the fact that he lost to detail-oriented Billy Napier on the road. And guess who Tennessee doesn't have this year when they face Florida on the road? Cooper. So
I like the Satterwhite kid. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. You'll love the buying process. You're in and out. It's so simple, so easy, and you'll get an incredible deal. Mine was unbelievable. My black Jeep, I could not be happier about it. Also, portions of the program brought to you by Brainerd Golf Course and Brown Acres Golf Course, Golf Chattanooga's best public courses. Tee times available. Just click below. It is easy to find down below in the description page. 2 minutes. And then coming up, Caleb, we're going to dig into something that you're just all about, that you believe firmly that what will be the Vols' best offensive unit in 2025. And I have a surprise. Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This is Off the Hook Sports. Stay with us for 2 minutes, and we'll be right back with you. And I'm going to tell you the best offensive unit on Tennessee's football team.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Ginger Power, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
This is an interesting topic. Can you jot this down for tomorrow? Or I guess Monday? It's Friday already. Talk about a fast week. What happened this week? I mean, I know we got sick in the middle of it. But goodness gracious. David said if you could have Joe Milton for this season, would you roll with him or Aguilar? Would Joe have been better a second year if he had one? Can we jot that down?
Yeah, I'll write that down.
I actually have some pretty strong feelings on that.
I am willing to say just straight up no from the start.
I'm supposed to give it away all at once. Well, I may differ with you a little bit. So we'll get into that. I do think Joe Milton. Dave hates Joe, but I definitely take Milton. Actually, I'm on your side. We will uncover the truth on Monday. It's Caleb Calhoun that hates Joe Milton. He's always hated Joe's. I don't know why.
I've never hated Joe Milton in my life. I just didn't think he was a fit for this offense. I did drive the Josh Heupel made a mistake train in 2021 the minute he named Joe Milton a starter.
Okay, yeah. But let me throw this at you though. What offense is he a fit for?
I think Joe Milton.
I mean, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Jamarcus Russell in shape. There are some guys that just don't adapt to offenses because of the neck up. And I believe he's one of those guys. I think all the physical abilities, I don't think there's an offense you could put him and say, oh, look, there's the run and shoot. He could do that.
Yeah, but you just said Jamarcus Russell. Like, that was he is actually a perfect fit for a defense-oriented, like, loaded team where they just need a quarterback with a big arm who can make enough throws. With the offense being simplified. So, I mean, like playing for Georgia right now in the Kirby Smart days, playing for LSU as Jamarcus Russell did when they were loaded with talent, playing for Alabama under the Nick Saban days, that's the perfect situation for him.
Okay. Well, that's the perfect defense and the perfect offense. It's kind of the perfect situation for anybody. Portions of the program brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. And man, their surplus of items now that they have are absolutely fantastic. Get geared up for baseball season, football season as well. Also want to thank our friends at Newbert Collision Center for nearly 50 years. Newbert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. NewbergCollision.com, NewbergCollision.com. All righty. So we change gears. What? Which ones? What? Exactly. So we do that right now. And it's going to be hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. And let's begin with this. As a whole, I think we would say that Tennessee's offense is cold compared to last year going into this time. You thought you had Nico, and I talked a lot about expectations yesterday, but they were still pretty good. Talk about Nico. You talk about Peyton Lewis, who we thought might have an impact but didn't. Dylan Sampson, we didn't know about. The offensive line came about second half of the season, in particular the tackles. The offensive interior was always good. The wide receivers lacked a little bit, partly because of Brew McCoy's injury. So as you look back on the 2024 season, before we break down some of the 2025, hot or cold, Tennessee's best unit on offense as a unit was what? How would you rate it, hot or cold?
The Tennessee offense as a unit in 2024 to me was cold, particularly when you figure out the stats are very skewed based on how much yardage they gained against very easy competition, including Chattanooga and Kent State. I've said before, and I'm sticking with this, Kent State last year was the worst team in the history of college football. I mean, they were the worst team in the history of Division I football last year. And then they got to play an FCS school. That's where they loaded up their points a lot of times, and then they played UTEP later in the year. So, yeah, that was the situation with them.
All right. So we both agree that Tennessee's offense wasn't up to snuff. As a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say it's an offense that Tennessee can't win a championship with. They can advance in the college football playoff. They may be able to squeak in as they did. They're going to have an offense better than that under a guy named Josh Heupel. Let's take a look at Tennessee's best units on offense in 2025. If you're hot, you like this group. If you're cold, you don't. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. That is cityheatandair.com. Some HVAC units will tell you, hey, you need a whole new unit. No, not at City. They'll take care of you, save you money. That's City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Okay, let's start up front. The offensive line, hot or cold on the offensive line? I'll go ahead and tell you that.
That's hot.
I'm hot.
Okay, so are you hot on them? The question is, are you hot on them potentially being the best unit on Tennessee's offense this year?
No, I'm just going to tell you I'm hot on them.
Okay.
I think they're going to be good. My hot is going to be predicated with a B+ or better.
So but the question here is what's going to be the best unit on the offense? And so I'm hot on the offensive line as a whole, not hot on them in terms of being the best unit on the offense, though. I'm cold on that. I'm saying, does any of these units have a chance to be the best unit?
I'll take hot that they're the best offensive unit on the
that they could be the best unit on offense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, just to break that down, I just can't. As much as I think I've won you over on David Sanders at right tackle. Funny enough, because I do think he's a generational recruit. The interior of the line, I'm with you. I believe in the talent there, particularly Satterwhite and Max Anderson, but it's still, when you lose all three interior linemen, I think there's going to be some growing pain. So I'm hot on them getting good. I'm cold on them being the best unit on the offense.
Hearing better stuff on Mo too than I heard initially. I think he's adapting well. And I love Satterwhite. So I think the way this is shaking out, I don't know if this was a grand scheme or not, but Josh Heupel was going to recruit interior offensive line and go out and get the tackles through the transfer portal. It kind of feels like that's the way it's going. Now, obviously, David Sanders is an exception, right? But for the most part, it seems like they've gone out and gotten tackles.
Yes, except for like this past year, you're right, where they went and got 2 interior linemen. They switched it up a little bit. But yeah, Lance Hurd, John Campbell, they went the tackle route in the past.
Yeah, I had somebody saying that was a grand scheme I don't think that was a grand scheme. I think that's just
There was no grand scheme.
the way it's worked out. All right. So next up, we got running backs. Is that right?
No, tight ends.
Tight ends.
That's hot.
Now, if you break those up, I'm going to go back. That's probably Tennessee's best group on the field. Obviously, I love what the freshman brings. I'm a big fan of what they have top to bottom. So, yes, if you broke it up into a smaller group outside of receivers, tight ends is probably the
Yes, so tight ends, okay. If everybody was healthy, I'd be hot on them potentially being the best unit on the team. And I know Miles Kitzelman's injury is not a serious one, but I think it'll be just enough to slow him down early in September. So I think over the course of the year in the conglomerate, I don't think the tight end position will be the best offensive unit. I think it could be. I just don't think it will be.
Well, also factor in there, I think Ethan Davis is a superstar.
Do you think he'll be a superstar this year, though?
Yes.
Okay.
The
All right.
years in the program, I think he's good to go.
Then maybe, you know what? You won me over. Okay. I'm hot. Even with Miles Kitzelman hurt, I think Ethan Davis could make this the best unit on the team. So, yep, I'm with you. I'm hot on tight ends.
Yep. And those pec conditions, man, you just throw a couple of staplers in there, like that big red staple from Office Space, and you go. Cool. All right. So let's go to wide receivers. Wide receivers probably is my biggest question mark and incomplete. I think Mike Matthews is going to be special like you do. I think that they have other players there, but wouldn't surprise me if they were average this year.
You ready for this?
Ready.
You know me, Dave. I'm a gambler, and so I really got burned with Nico last year because of that. Just also randomly last night when Oklahoma City was down to the Pacers by 22 at halftime, I took out a bet on Oklahoma City coming back and winning. Boy, was I wrong. But anyways, I like to gamble, and I think as a gambler, I would put my money on the wide receivers being the best unit. I think they're going to be superb this year. I think this is going to be the best wide receiver unit Josh Heupel has had since he's been at Tennessee.
Probably your best odds if you compared them to the rest of these guys, because at running backs, you have a guy who is coming in, Deshaun Bishop, who is proven effective. I think you and I question how durable he can be at his size. Then you have a guy named Peyton Lewis who comes in and looked like he was chilled from the body of running back Adonis. On the hoof, he looks as good as Jamal Lewis on the hoof. I'm not saying he runs like it.
All right, so moving on from wide receivers to running backs then. So I'm hot on wide receivers potentially being the best unit, but I'm with you. I'm actually hot on running backs potentially being the best unit too. I think running backs could be the best unit too because Peyton Lewis, I think, in terms of just physical abilities, is better built than even Dylan Sampson, honestly.
Oh, yeah. There's no comparison. You stand next to those two guys, you're like, one's an NFL player, one's a really good Division I player.
Right.
And Dylan Sampson may prove to be better because backs are getting smaller and more shifty in the NFL. And
people are learning how to use them better too.
Right. But 20 years ago, Dylan Sampson, I think you would agree, doesn't have a home in the NFL. He's too small.
100%. 100%. He doesn't have a home 20 years ago. Yep. 1,000%.
That's Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. It is time.
Well, wait, last one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks. Can the quarterback be the best position unit on this team this year? Can Joey Aguilar carry lesser talent around him?
No, I think he has to be a complimentary player. I think he has to hit a couple of deep balls. I'm not going to say a complimentary player in terms of a Trent Dilfer. But what about a complimentary player? And this sounds weird because he had 2 Super Bowl championships at the end of his career. But the first 3 years he played for a Super Bowl, John Elway, his only job was to hit on 3 or 4 deep balls and let the defense win. Same thing for Randall Cunningham. Famously, their head coach, Rex Ryan, said hit 4 or 5 balls and defense.
Rob Ryan,
excuse me. And it was pretty easy to coach those guys because they did special things. I don't think Joey Aguilar is that type of.
Well, let's be fair to John Elway and Randall Cunningham. They were expected to hit 3 or 4 deep balls, but also run for about 50 yards too.
Right. I'm definitely not trying to compare the 3. I'm just saying that I think Joey Aguilar, the approach is going to be just hit 4 or 5 balls.
How about Troy Aikman? He was basically hit 4 or 5 deep balls, right? And he didn't even have to run.
He is pretty accurate.
But hit Michael Irvin for a 75-yard touchdown pass, hit Alvin Harper for a 50-yard touchdown pass, and then let Emmitt Smith run for 200 yards.
I think you're going to have to come down sometime, and I'm going to have to learn you about the Cowboys. I'm willing to do.
I think Tony Romo was a better quarterback than Troy Aikman.
That's insane. All right, out of the group, offensive line, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks.
I'm saying the best.
I'm going to change mine up a little bit. I'm going to go tight end since you broke them apart, and then I'm going to go offense.
And I'm going to go receivers. I am all in on receivers, and it's that you're right. Those are the best odds. Man, I wish Vegas would set this up, man, because Tennessee's receivers. Because I don't have a gambling problem, but I would bet everything.
But if you did.
But if I did.
If I did have a gambling
problem. If I did, the late, great Pete Rose and I would put some money on that. I saw a horrible thing the other day, by the way, and it said, Pete Rose might retroactively go to the Hall of Fame, and it said Pete Rose's Hall of Fame Day will be brought to you by DraftKings.
I saw this one the other day. Somebody just posted on Facebook, and this was a friend of mine, so kind of me. He said, look at this Pete Rose autographed bench. It was like you could sit on it, which made me think it should have been Johnny Bench. But anyway, so it was autographed, and it had the Reds logo and everything. And I commented, how much did you bet to have to get that?
Well played.
I was proud of that one. Nobody got it, though.
Oh, wow. Really?
Nobody got it.
That's kind of crazy.
Very disappointed. All right. It is time for the, excuse me, stat of the day is I've been fighting the cold this week. Excuse me. Stat of the day is brought to you by our good friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design.
Stat of the day. They never lie. Or do they? Stat of the day. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
All right. Rick Terry Jewelry Design brings us the stat of the day. What do we got, Caleb?
This is a great segue into when we do our upcoming comparison between Nico and Joey Aguilar, because we're going to talk about Joey Aguilar in certain situations. However, one thing we must point out is Aguilar has played 2 games against Power 5 competition already. In those 2 games, he was 40 of 84 for 489 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 39 rushing yards. Not very good.
No, not very good. So do you feel more or less comfortable with Nico or with Joey Aguilar as you did Nico?
I still feel more comfortable somewhat with Joey Aguilar because I think Josh Heupel will know how to scheme things around him.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. I think Tennessee still has some question marks when it comes to Joey Aguilar, but we'll see. Everybody seems to be really high on him. Stat of the day is brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Man, they want to be your jeweler, and they'll take care of you with the fantastic game day apparel. It is awesome. The jewelry, you will love it. It is Rick Terry Jewelry Design. It is there on Kingston Pike, and do yourself a favor and certainly stop by. You will be glad you did. All right. Coming up on the program just a little bit later, we're going to get into Peyton Manning reveals telling why Arch Manning staying at Texas will pay off. Sounds like a big hint. Stay tuned. More after this. This is Off the Hook Sports.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
So as we break into this for just a second, the U.S. Open was last week and Father's Day was last week, and it made me want to throw that out there. What former Vol would you most like to play a round of golf with? Learn all the stories, learn all the neat things that happened. Is it simple as Peyton Manning? Is it more like a Jack Hacksaw Reynolds going back in the day, hearing some of the crazy stories? I would be more apt to go back to the crazy stories. What about you, Caleb?
I want to play with Johnny Majors, the late Johnny Majors. I think Johnny Majors probably could talk. There is nobody that could talk better than Johnny Majors. I'm a history buff. Johnny Majors was a history buff. Like Johnny Majors had a memory like nobody's business. If there's anybody, it not just play golf, just sit at a bar with, hang out in the house. I could be like the little 5-year-old grandkid sitting on Johnny Majors' lap, just wanting to hear all his stories.
I would be good with that. Actually, I have been in that situation. I wasn't sitting in his grand lap,
You weren't his grandkid.
No, I wasn't sitting in his lap. We thought that would have been uncomfortable. I was a grown man. I mean, we talked about it. Don't get me wrong. It was discussed because I was like, tell me stories, young man. He liked it when I called him young man. No, he didn't. Johnny Majors was a great guy. And the rumor is out there by all NFL scouts and NFL assistant coaches that him and Lou Holtz were the two coaches you did not want to coach. Well, I never saw a bit of that. I saw a man who absolutely took pride in who he was, a man that absolutely loved being the leader of one of his football teams, and I was just overly impressed by him. He was the guy that wanted to get stuff done. I will tell you that. And if you weren't getting stuff done, it wasn't working out for you. Let's go to the stat of the day. Stat of the day. Let's go to this day in Tennessee sports history, brought to you by Sports Treasures. Sports Treasures, over 5 million sports treasures there in North Knoxville. They're there to serve you. It is time for this day in Tennessee sports history. Sorry, I'm having my vision. All right, we get the music bed today. All right, what do you got, Caleb?
On this day 7 years ago, the legendary John Ward passed away. John Ward was obviously one of the most famous broadcasters in college sports history, and honestly just sports history in general. Was just a legend and really helped define broadcasting in the SEC age.
He did, and he did it in a way that was probably ahead of his age. He didn't come across like a homer.
No, he didn't. Never did.
You knew he was for. I mean, I don't think there's any question he was for Tennessee. But as far as the we and the sorts of things that Charlie Munson used to do at Georgia, he didn't do that.
No, never did that. Never did that at all. So, yep, just he was 88 when he passed away, and just want to remember him. John Ward, legendary voice of the Vols.
Oh, he was he was right up there with people meeting Philip Fulmer or meeting him and just being blown away. As a matter of fact, who would you like to participate in a foursome with? I want Johnny Majors on there. I want Philip Fulmer on there, and I want John Ward. And then the third is the fourth. You can go your own way. How about that?
All righty. Johnny Majors, Philip Fulmer, John Ward, and I'll do Peyton Manning. And we'll see how it goes.
Peyton Manning's mad at you for cheating. All gonna quit. All gonna be pretty. And I don't think you're going to enjoy yourself.
We'll see. Let's see what people say.
See, I think Mike Jordan and Tiger Woods would play. I think they just would be no fun whatsoever.
Maybe not, but it's possible. We'll have to see how it goes.
The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. 2 minutes, then more Off the Hook Sports.com. Who would you like to play a round of golf with in this golf season? And also, we take it a step further as Caleb at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting came up with a really good idea. Peyton Manning says you want head coach calling plays. Sort of. He's talking about Steve Sarkisian, but Peyton Manning called a lot of his plays in college. So this is an interesting dive into. Stay tuned with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Off the Hook.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. A guy with a lot of jobs, but this one is the most important.
This is not government work. As such, I treat it with care and attention.
Until someone else calls. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Coming up, an interesting comparison between Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava, thanks to our friends at the Sports Source. So we want to look at that. Now, who would you want to play golf with? You got a round of golf, and you can play golf with this person. Do you play golf, Caleb?
No.
So we're both bad examples. But who are the four we've got up now?
Johnny Majors, Philip Fulmer, John Ward, and Peyton Manning.
Okay. A couple of notes up on the message board. John Ward was a class act. John Ward has more class in his pinky toe than Larry Munson ever had. Munson was a classless rube. Ouch! General says, I'm so thankful I got to meet John Ward and got his autographs. That's because he had the 9.5 by 10 flossies in his briefcase at all times, ready to dole out the autographs. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
He was ready to go. The 9.5. There you go. That's me. Look at me. It's a little weird. Majors for knowing what I know. In other words, majors know it all a little bit. Majors could go back in time, though, in the early 1900s, tell you about football coaches you had no idea about. You can't be around Peyton, or you can't be around Johnny Majors or something. Trevor said, I love to play golf with Peyton, but dang it if I don't get nervous and hook all my shots into the woods and spend all day looking for my ball. I would get nervous with a lot of those guys. So who would you play golf with?
Johnny Majors.
Johnny Majors, hands down.
Hands down. Not even a question.
Who else is close on that list?
Probably John Ward, because I bet John Ward could talk some good history. I might do Philip Fulmer, because Philip Fulmer was quiet about this, but Philip Fulmer was actually at Tennessee during a very dramatic changing time of Tennessee history. I mean, it was the Doug Dickey era into the Bill Battle era. The school was integrating at that time. It was the height of the civil rights movement in colleges in the South integrating right before he was. So he was teammates with Jackie Walker, Lester McLean. And then when he was, and so he was a captain on that team, and he's very quiet about it. And I just want to know what it was like being a leader of that team that was at the centerpiece of the social changes happening in the country at the time.
Let me ask you this, Caleb. Would you want to be a part of a golf round with Andrich Holloway just to learn about all the stuff he went through? Because I know he wasn't the first to integrate, but being the quarterback carries a certain bit of.
The only reason I wouldn't, I think Andrich Holloway wouldn't open up about it. I think he would keep it quiet.
Well, I think we're both assuming that they would open up.
If Condrich opened up, I'd want to hear about it, but I don't think Condrich would open up about it. The same, so, and I don't blame him for that either.
I mean, we've heard so much about how what they went through in baseball, but my goodness, in the South, something that's so passionate, and I do know that it's passionate in that regard, in terms of baseball. But I'm sorry, getting fired up for the Pirates isn't like getting fired up for Tennessee, Alabama. Let's get to the Joey Aguilar, Nico Iamaleava thing. And the reason I want to get to that is because our friends at the Sports Source brought up some really, really good points, I thought. It'll be 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. We certainly appreciate them. I'm sorry, excuse me. It's what are we? We're at,
no, you're right. You're right. It's 4 Downs. Ted Russell Ford.
4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford, East Tennessee's largest. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer on Kingston Pike and Parkside Drive. So you seem to think that there is a pretty strong apt comparison between Nico Iamaleava and Joey Aguilar when we really dip into the numbers, and we want to give proper credit to the Sports Source for pulling up these numbers. Can we go ahead and show some of those graphics?
Well, yeah, we'll do for each down, but I'm going to say overall, yes, the Sports Source compared them. We're going to show these different. They brought down. They brought up Pro Football Focus stats, and they broke them down through charts and things like that on their show. We're going to show you per down each chart they showed, and we're going to break down the significance of that. And my question becomes, does it matter given the different levels of competition they face? But first, please go check out the full segment from Sports Source. I just posted the link to that segment in the chat because I want to give them proper credit because they did an amazing job breaking this down. This is a major shout out to them. But yeah.
And by the way, what does Cooper say to do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop. What down?
Here, 1st down.
Thank you, Coop. All right, when pressured, how do these two quarterbacks stack up?
And pulling it up now, when pressured, this is what you're seeing. Okay, this is what Sports Source showed. This was in 2024. Joey Aguilar takes gets rid of the ball more than a 1/10 of a second quicker than Nico, which is a big deal. In a clean pocket, Nico is a better passer by 5 percentage points. However, under pressure, Joey Aguilar is better by 5 percentage points in terms of their completion percentage.
You're probably under pressure 70% of the time.
Yes, exactly. Nico completed when not blitzed, Nico 5 points better. When blitzed, Aguilar 5 points better. Clean pocket, touchdown to interception ratio 18-3 for Nico, 19-9 for Aguilar. Under pressure, 1-2 for Nico, 4-5 for Aguilar. So all that shows is Nico, clean pocket, at a pro day, would outperform Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar, with somebody in his face, is better than Nico Iamaleava.
Yep, it does. And he seems to be the gamer, so to speak, that the two guys that would show up at the Elite 11 camp and you'd say, what's that Joey Aguilar even doing here? It's all Nico. And that's not football, though. I mean, that's people being in your face. I've seen guys before. There was one quarterback who, it was before the 98 season. They decided to let all quarterbacks go live and they could be hit. You and I've talked about it before. He was never the same quarterback after because he wasn't ready. You have to grow into these positions. So maybe Joey Aguilar has grown into this position. Maybe Nico never would have.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll see. But Joey Aguilar is already better than Nico in certain situations. And that's why I said we would have to see with Nico this year because Nico was younger. There's a potential Nico would be better. I think it's a little unfair to compare the two from last year when it was Nico's first year starting. I've said, and I've stuck by this, Joey Aguilar this year will be better than Nico was last year. But Joey Aguilar this year will not be better than Nico would have been had he stayed at Tennessee this year. That has been my contention the whole time.
Okay. Who's better 3 years from now in the pros?
Nico. Joey Aguilar's not a pro prospect. He's not going to the pros. He doesn't have the talent to go to the pros.
Yeah, that's in. All right. Any other stats you want to throw at us from the Nico Joey Aguilera?
I need to be teed up by Coop, man.
Oh, sorry.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Yeah.
All right. Pass concepts. And I'm going to show this real quickly. Again, this is from the Sports Source. I want you guys to go check out that full video. They did an amazing job. But the pass concepts show Nico 21% better on play action. Joey Aguilar 21% better on no play action. Nico 7%. So 7% better on screen percentage, on no screen percentage. Aguilar 7% better. Play action touchdown to interception ratio, Aguilar 13-4, Nico 16-3. No play action touchdown to interception ratio, Aguilar 10-10, Nico 3-2. Nico threw 2 screen passes for a touchdown, Aguilar threw none. This isn't really showing any breakdown over who's better. It really has much more to do with just the different offenses they ran. There were a lot more screen passes thrown by Tennessee, and there were a lot more vertical attacks by Joey Aguilar.
Too many, but an accurate screen pass instead of a screen pass thrown on your back hip, which I don't know how Pro Football Focus rates that, should count for something more than just a completion. If it's on your front hip, the direction you're going, and you can run through the ball, that should count for something. I've got a lot of respect for Pro Football Focus. I bet they factor that in somehow. But one on your back hip that slows you down, I mean, it might as well be a bad pitch out of the backfield.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Now, third down. Team me up for Coop on third down. This is a big difference, too.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
This is on deep balls. So just a quick showing real quick. Deep targets, Nico 16 of 50, Aguilar 28 of 77. Aguilar has a 3 percentage points better completion percentage and has 9 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Nico 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Aguilar, his key points are 10 yards over the middle and deep left, deep right. Nico just straight down between the numbers is Nico at his best. So I think
it surprise you at all? Didn't it seem like they weren't throwing in the middle enough?
Yes, but I think that there were a lot of quick slants that went for touchdowns where Dante Thornton outran somebody over the middle. There were a few of those, and I think that's what they're counting. I think Aguilar, this shows is better on post corner routes and things like that. And again, is willing to. They threw deep passes over the middle. What they didn't do was the 10-yard routes over the middle. That was the big difference between Nico and Aguilar. And Nico, and so Aguilar was able to do the darts over the middle of 10 yards. Nico's would be more 10, 20, 30, and 40 yards.
Yeah, I'm with you, Daniel. I thought that was the most shocking stat from the segment. Now, perhaps they ran to the middle of the field more often than we thought because the middle of the field was so open throughout the season. That's a possibility.
Total possibility.
And, a lot of those, let's remember, are going to be dump offs to not Alvin Kamara, to Dylan Sampson, who are going to be safety valves in some sense. So there are a few of those. So maybe that number is not as defunct as it certainly seems to be, but it did to me. I was surprised that Nico threw that much over the middle. I was part of his problems. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. 2 minutes off those.
Wait, fourth down. We need fourth down from Coop.
Fourth down, Coop.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
And here's the real question, the big question, the key question. Do any of these stats matter given the fact that Joey Aguilar was at Appalachian State and Nico Iamaleava was at Tennessee and playing in the SEC, or are making throws regardless of the level?
2 things stood out to me. One, he's going to have to learn the proper foot and hand work to be an accurate play action passer. You have to sell the linebackers, and he hasn't done that a lot in his career, right?
Correct.
Nearly as much. So he's going to have to work on that. I mean, that needs to be what he stays after practice with the rest of his teammates, summer workouts, whatever you want to call it. That's what he needs to be staying at after for an hour or two. And the other thing that strikes me are the deep balls down the sideline. That seems to be his forte. If that's his forte, then Tennessee's a different offense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm totally with you on that. And I think that it doesn't really matter the level that you're at because he didn't have a lot of talent around him either. So I think there's a lot of reasons for Tennessee to be excited about the situation.
Yep. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Portions of the program brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better, CBTN.com. Coming up in 2 minutes, Caleb's going to throw some more knowledge at you here in just a moment. What do we got coming up next, Caleb?
We're going to close the show with Peyton Manning revealing why Archie Manning's choice to stay at Texas will pay off, and it actually says something about Peyton Manning's philosophy on how offenses should be run today. That kind of shocked me.
So bizarre after what he did. 2 minutes off those words.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
A guy with a lot of jobs, but this one is the most important.
This is not government work. As such, I treat it with care and attention.
Until someone else calls. The Dave Hooker Show with Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. Banksandjones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
David said, do you think Nico would have transferred to an SEC program if he could have?
No.
I was out for a bit. What am I missing? There are several, more than half the programs that would take him as starting quarterback.
Well, he couldn't because you can't transfer to an SEC school after the spring transfer window. I don't think so because we covered this there. There were it was borderline collusion. There were a lot of major programs that were so supportive of what Josh Heupel did because they felt it was giving power back to the schools finally in the NIL age that they outright refused to even give Nico a listen. Apparently, from sources we heard, Nico reached out to so many high-profile schools, most notably Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was like, take a walk. We don't want you.
Okay, I did hear that. Okay, but I am a jaded ass. Okay, I am. And I think at the end of the day, if he calls Marcus Freeman twice and said, I've had a change of heart. Big Nick's out of it. My agent's out of it. I really want to lead Notre Dame to a championship. It's been my lifelong dream. I'm secretly Catholic, which is not true. I think Freeman being a coach would take the talent.
Yes, but that's still.
I think you may need a little bit of begging, a little bit of convincing, but I think Kirby Smart would have taken the talent.
But what you're pointing out is that's what he would have had to do. So he would have had to. The thing is, they were going to force concessions out of Nico when for so long they were making every concession and not forcing any concessions from the player. So even in your scenario, Nico would have had to make a concession, which was kick his dad out of his life.
Right, but you believe at the end of the day that he could have walked himself onto any campus in the nation
if he made certain concessions.
Right.
But yes, he would have had to make certain concessions.
If he said Agent Sleazy Joe's out of the equation as well. By the way, that Golden Gems, what's it called? The
Vols Gym?
Yeah. No. The show that's called about these mega church.
Oh, Righteous Gemstones.
Have you watched that yet?
Oh, I love that. I watched the entire show. That is exactly how megachurch pastors are. So
for some reason, I'm so into it, and all I've seen are the clips, which is why I encourage you to do our social media clip today. But the one line, all I want is a bottle of cocaine and $2 million. Is that asking for too much?
Billy.
I just cannot get over that. So I'm getting into that very shortly. We'll have something to converse about, as if we don't already. Want to be sure and thank our friends at National Fitness Center. Unlimited value, limitless option. Begin your fitness journey today. NFC1.com. NFC1.com. Also, Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. You can go down to the link right down below. Again, that is sportstreasurestn.com. We absolutely love them. All right, so we're going to change gears a little bit, but not too terribly much, as I have to be limited because my computer is giving me all kinds of problems today. But nevertheless, Peyton Manning says he wants his head coach calling plays. Now, let me give you a little bit of background. Just short of being the offensive coordinator, that's what Peyton Manning was for the Indianapolis Colts and to some extent the Tennessee Volunteers. He had a freeze play in which there were two plays called. I imagine one was run left, one was throw right. They were supposed to play off keys of each other. And pre-snap read, Peyton would make that call. Why didn't things work out against Steve Spurrier? Because he figured it out and he showed him the wrong pre-snap read. So that's why that happened. But for the most part, it happened against the teams. And now Steve Spurrier or Steve Sarkisian is getting told by Peyton Manning that he should handle all the play calling. I'm a little confused by that. What the H?
What the H?
Wow, I never worked hard on anything. What a cool life.
For real? The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. Banksandjones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Okay, let me be real clear. I love Peyton Manning. I love what he is for the university. I love his mind. I think it's a 1 in a million when it comes to football players that really understand every facet of the game. This statement to me makes no sense. Why would you want Steve Sarkisian calling the plays unless you're at least doing the freeze plays in which you
let's give the full quote of what Peyton Manning said.
Okay, well I'm gonna do that, but
because he didn't actually tell Steve Sarkisian that he wants him calling plays.
Yeah, but I'm gonna do that. I don't want to get to that, but it surprises me that he would want some of that responsibility, if not all of that responsibility, taken out of his hands.
So Peyton
or
Manning,
his nephew's hands.
the Peyton Manning comment, the way he said it was, he was asked about basically Arch Manning in Texas and what he believes in them, and he said this typical stuff. It's about going to class, the stability, all the stuff that Peyton Manning you would expect to say. But he had this line in here that said, "You like the head coach who also calls the plays, and that creates great continuity." To me, the Kyle Shanahans, the Sean McVays, when the head coach is calling plays, the quarterback is going to thrive in the same system every year. Now, as you pointed out, Peyton Manning did have the same head coach and quarterback in college in Philip Fulmer and David Cutcliffe. But you're right. It's not like Philip Fulmer. The weird part to me about that was Philip Fulmer wasn't calling any plays for the offense when Peyton Manning was there.
Oh.
Yeah. So I wonder if, in my question to you, Peyton Manning, times change over. Now, Tony Dungy said one time, and this is years ago, but Tony Dungy did say that it's a misnomer that Peyton Manning wants to be like is like the offensive coordinator on the field. Peyton Manning has never wanted to be the offensive coordinator on the field. He likes to be coached. What Tony Dungy said was Peyton would direct the offense on the field, but the formations and the concepts were usually handled by whoever the offensive coordinator was at the time, whether that was Tom Moore or Adam Gase or somebody like that. And
okay, but that's what I'm driving at. I'm not driving at him have a headset on the field. Okay.
Right. I agree with you. So my question, I guess where we're at is, I'm with you. It's bizarre, and I don't get it that Peyton says you want the head coach calling the plays, because he never, ever, ever played in an offense where the head coach was calling the plays, ever.
No, I wonder if he misspoke or that he's using a football terminology that we don't utilize in the part. I wonder if he's talking game planning, because I do want my Tom Moores of the world, my David Cutcliffes of the world. I want those guys putting together the game plan, right? I want everybody to know where to line up and to where I can put a defender in a bind. I mean, that's what I want. And he didn't do that specifically. But once they were in a bind, once a linebacker had to decide to drop or go, that's when he took advantage of it with Omaha. And to me, it just seems like a total deviation of what they've done in the past. And it really surprises me. And I'll take it a step further. How many years does Archie have left? Arch
he could play for 3 more years. He's not going to play for 3 more years, but he could play in college for 3 more years.
This makes me think the Manning family does everything premeditated. This makes me wonder if you're not dropping in a little early hint that, maybe this Sarkisian guy isn't handling the calls.
So you think Peyton is secretly working to see if he'll get his nephew to transfer?
Well, not necessarily transfer, just I think that they think he's gone after next year. And they want to leave on good terms. Because let's face it, Peyton Manning could have left on if he'd announced I want to play football in Knoxville or whatever he said. I want to play football instead for the New York Jets, whatever. Then he could have gotten away with that. He wouldn't have been disliked because of that. There are other players that I think don't smooth the rails a little bit, and I do believe that they eventually are distrusted, disliked by their fan base. And I think the Peyton Manning family is too sensitive.
Okay, so one of the things, and I love that in what you're suggesting, because even if you were saying he misspoke with the play calling and it was about the game planning, well, Dave, all right, you covered a lot of those Tennessee meeting rooms during practices back in the 2000s. Was Philip Fulmer ever involved in the game planning that Cutcliffe or Chavis was doing?
Well,
or did they just run it by him and he's like, oh, that sounds good?
I think he was very involved in the 98 national championship game because he had to be, because Randy Sanders took over for David Cutcliffe. And then I think if you look at how much they ran the football in 99, he was still pretty much involved. And then I think he probably gave Randy full reign about 2000, maybe 2000.
But typically he let his coordinators do all the game planning, right?
Yes. To give you a difference, Nick Saban was a guy that would tear up the offensive and/or defensive game plan the Thursday night before and redo it.
Right, exactly. So putting that out there,
there wasn't Philip Fulmer.
Yes, so Philip Fulmer wasn't that involved in game planning. When Peyton Manning went to the Colts, maybe when Jim Mora was there, but we know Tony Dungy had nothing to do with the offensive game planning. He's not an offensive guy. So, of course, he had nothing to do with the offensive game planning. And then he played for Jim Caldwell. I know Jim Caldwell was an offensive guy, but by that point, I think it was Peyton's offense. He goes to Denver to play for John Fox.
Jim Caldwell, by the way, was the ultimate offensive guy that felt like a defensive guy.
Right? Because he was so hands-off with the offense.
Yeah, surely you coach defense, right?
Right. No, I totally agree. And then he goes to Denver and he plays for John Fox, who was not involved in any offensive game planning. Now, Peyton Manning's last year, the year he won the Super Bowl, Gary Kubiak was involved in the offensive game planning, but that's because Gary Kubiak had to change the whole offense because they had a totally different type of team, and Peyton Manning wasn't Peyton Manning anymore. So Gary Kubiak had to kind of work around that. But yeah, I'm with you. It's weird because even the game planning, but I think he is referring to game planning, which in that case, if he is, then he's okay with the situation Tennessee's in with Josh Heupel, right? Because he expects Josh Heupel to be the primary game planner no matter what.
Yeah, I've been told that Peyton Manning has some questions about Josh Heupel's offense.
Maybe for developing quarterbacks, but not about the success it could have in college. That would be my guess, right?
I just think that he's afraid it could be inconsistent. You have Hendon Hooker, who throws an incredible deep ball. Joey Aguilar may as well. So the offense is humming, is moving right along. But you got a Nico who doesn't get the ball out fast enough. You got a Joe Milton who overthrows people by 500 miles. So I think there's concern that you have to have really good quarterback play to have a really good offense. And the simple fact is you're not going to have really good quarterback play year in and year out.
No, that is true. I agree with you on that.
I mean, Rick Clausen was not really good quarterback play, but he was arguably the best choice for that team that year.
Yeah, but when they went with, I kind of still side with Fulmer picking Ainge. They did go all in.
Yeah, I'm the talent guy. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
He's got it.
I'm not the talent guy. There's a bare minimum guy, and Rick Clausen didn't meet the bare minimum. And so, if Rick Clausen, my thing is, if it was like Rick Clausen was Eric Ainge, and Eric Ainge was like, I don't know, you bring up Hendon Hooker, who had more talent, but Eric Ainge was, put it this way, if Rick Clausen could meet the base level of throwing the ball, I would have sided with him as a starter because the whole team rallied around him. Rick Clausen couldn't make basic throws. He had the worst arm in the history of SEC starting quarterbacks.
I want to do this in a little bit. I know that everybody wants to be a head coach, and that's a big part of it. And a lot of coaches are just absolutely haunted by the fact that they weren't the head coach at some point. But David brings up a good point. We need Golish back at UT, plain and simple. Golish and Josh Heupel are like peanut butter and jelly.
All right, I'll write that down. That's a good one that might be a good column.
Yeah, and I wonder too, Caleb, if we're at a point where the level field has been leveled, the level of field has been, you know what I'm saying? But I wonder if coaches might be willing to do that. They were in some sort of co-role. I can provide some background to that. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we're with you each and every weekday at 10 a.m. off the sports.